Imagine a world where money never existed. No paper bills, no gold coins, no digital wallets, just people and the things they own. People are hungry, people have needs. But in this world, there's no such thing as buying. There's only one rule. If you want something, you have to give something in return. In this world, trade happens through bartering, but it's far from simple. A farmer wants clothes, so he offers wheat to a tailor. But what if the tailor doesn't need wheat? That's where things get tricky. People create massive barter chains. One person trades wheat for salt, salt for fish, fish for fabric, and finally, fabric for the item they actually want. Bartering takes time, patience, and sometimes pure luck. Over time, certain goods become universally valuable. Salt, for example, is in high demand. It becomes a kind of unofficial currency. In other places, it might be tea leaves, animal hides, or even seashells. What's valuable isn't fixed. It changes with people's needs. But there's a problem: fairness. The value of anything depends on the situation. What's worth a lot today might be worthless tomorrow. Eventually, communities try to bring order to the chaos. Markets are formed, barter rules are written. Some regions even create storage houses for high value goods, guarded by trusted people. These are the early seeds of what we now know as banking systems. Still, there's no money, not yet. And this raises the real question: without money, could civilization have advanced this far? Or would we still be stuck trying to match goods to needs, trade by trade? Maybe the invention of money wasn't just about convenience. Maybe it was one of humanity's greatest turning points. Oh, money. There is no salary, no bonuses, no raises, no commissions. So why would anyone work in this world? Waking up to tend a field, build a shelter, catch fish, or help a neighbor? What would be the reward? In a world without money, the answer is simple. If you don't work, you are not from this society. Work exists only because of necessity. People produce not because they want to climb the career ladder, but because they have to. And every profession is born out of a direct need. If a village needs clothes, someone becomes a tailor. If they need food, one of them will be a fisherman. If they need houses, someone becomes a carpenter. No one chooses a job for status. No one changes their career to make more money. The most respected professions are those that touch everyday life: farmers, hunters, blacksmiths, healers. Their work keeps everyone alive. Sometimes the work is not even transactional. In some villages, a blacksmith creates tools for everyone, and in return, people bring him wood, food, or help. This is not a job, it is the survival of society. But the system is not perfect. If too many people do the same job, let's say everyone becomes a fisherman, then the balance collapses. No one is building a house, no one is making clothes. In other words, professions are not shaped only by talents or dreams. They evolve from what society doesn't have. Working without money is not a race, it's a necessity. There is no office, there is no resume. There is no such thing as LinkedIn. A person's value is not measured by their followers or income, but by how much they contribute to those around them. In this world, choosing a job wouldn't start with this: what do I want to do? He would start with, what does the community need from me? And what was his highest career goal? Today, the idea of rich and poor is almost entirely shaped by money. If your wallet is full, you're rich. If it's empty, you're poor. But what if money never existed? How would people see each other? How would wealth be measured? And what would it even mean to be poor? In this world, one thing would matter above all else: not what you own, but what you can access. Without money, wealth wouldn't mean luxury cars, jewelry, or giant houses. Wealth would mean resources: land, food, tools, and most importantly, people. Whoever had the largest fields, the most food, or the strongest community around them, that person would be seen as wealthy. But this kind of wealth wasn't for showing off, it was for surviving. Houses stayed simple, clothing was practical, status wasn't shown with gold or fashion. It was seen in full barns, healthy animals, and strong family ties. And poverty meant being alone, having no food, no shelter, and no one to help you. Isolation was the harshest form of being poor. In many places, truly wealthy people gained respect not by keeping everything for themselves, but by sharing, because hoarding resources made enemies. But sharing created loyalty. Real power came from generosity, from feeding, protecting, and supporting others. Maybe in a world without money, people wouldn't chase wealth, they would chase trust. No banks, no savings accounts, no insurance. Your true strength came from those around you, from the community you built. Kindness, generosity, helping others, these were the real investments. And maybe that's why, in a world without money, true wealth wouldn't be measured by what you own, but by one simple thing: when you're gone, how many people will remember you? The cities we know today were shaped around one thing: money, shopping centers, banks, markets, massive economies. But what if money never existed? Why would people build cities? And how would civilizations even begin? The answer is simple: because survival was impossible alone. In a world without money, cities wouldn't rise for trade or wealth, they would exist for protection. People came together not to buy or sell, but to stay alive. A city would be a place that could defend itself. A village would be a space that could feed itself. But building a city without money would take much longer, because the bigger a city grew, the harder life became. Who would farm? Who would hunt? Who would build? Without money, the thing that held the city together wasn't currency, it was trust, sharing, and cooperation. Everyone worked, everyone produced, and everyone gave what they had to the community. That's why cities would look less like what we know today, and more like giant villages, places where everyone knew each other, where helping was normal, where sharing was survival. There would be no luxury towers, no grand monuments, no glittering plazas. A city would simply mean small houses, large fields, and shared spaces, and the most valuable land, anywhere with water, fertile soil, natural protection. Building a city without money wasn't about stacking stones, it was about building trust between people. In this world, civilization wouldn't be measured by wealth or buildings, it would be measured by the culture of living together. And maybe the strongest city wouldn't be the one with the most gold or the tallest walls, but the one that took care of its people the most. Because in this world, real wealth wasn't buildings, it was people. Most modern wars revolve around money, oil, gold, land, resources. They all have one thing in common: they generate wealth. But what if money never existed? What would people fight for? What would power even look like? The answer is simple and ancient: survival. Water, food, shelter, land. Anything essential to life would become the reason to go to war. Would a world without money be more peaceful? Not necessarily. In fact, it might be the opposite. Without money, power would be measured by control over resources. A river, a fertile valley, a mountain pass, these would be worth more than any pile of gold. There would be no nations as we know them, no formal armies, just tribes and communities. And the battles? They wouldn't be for flags or territory, they'd be for a clean water spring or a stretch of land where crops could grow. The most common causes of war in this world might be freshwater access, fertile soil, areas rich in game animals, natural shelters, strategic paths or safe zones. The ones who attacked were usually desperate, starving, without land or support. Those who defended were simply trying to protect what little they had. And in this world, strength wasn't just about weapons, it was about people. Whoever had more followers, more supporters, more unity, they held the real power. In a world without money, war wouldn't be about profit. It would be about survival. No one would die for a factory. No one would shed blood for a stock market. Wars would be simpler, but also more brutal. And in the end, the strongest weapon wouldn't be a sword or control of land. It would be people. Because in that world, winning wasn't about how much you conquered. It was about how many stood beside you. Today, most scientific breakthroughs and technological revolutions rely on one thing: funding. Research labs, innovation hubs, space programs, all fueled by money. But what if money never existed? How would science be supported? What would drive invention? And in a world where you couldn't sell your idea, what would give it value? Without money, knowledge wouldn't be pursued for profit, but for necessity. If a society needed to grow crops faster, they would invent better tools. If food spoiled too quickly, they would build cool storage spaces. If people wanted to travel farther, they would create ways to carry more. Technology would evolve, but slowly, because science would only matter when it served a purpose. There would be no inventors chasing fame or fortune, no patent races, no investors. In this world, knowledge would be valued by what it gave to the community, not what it earned for the individual. The most respected minds wouldn't be the richest, but the most helpful. And in some cultures, sharing knowledge would be sacred. Discoveries wouldn't belong to one person, they'd belong to everyone. Technology would grow not through ownership, but through collective wisdom. And maybe that would make science slower, but also more ethical, because it wouldn't be built for power. It would be built for life. In a world without money, technology can be. It's simpler, easy does it, but it's more human. A scientist would not work for a salary, they work to keep others alive. And the greatest inventions, there would be no savings. There could have been people who shared. Today, knowledge is everywhere: schools, universities, online courses. But behind all of it, there's money. You pay for books, you pay for school, you pay to learn. But what if money never existed? How would people learn? How would knowledge spread? In a world without money, knowledge wouldn't be a product. It would be a legacy. Learning and teaching wouldn't be a luxury. They would be a responsibility. People wouldn't hide what they knew. They'd have to share it, because the survival of the whole community would depend on it. Would there be schools? Yes, but not like today's buildings. Maybe under a tree, around a fire, or in a village square. Who would the teachers be? The ones who knew the most, the ones who experienced the most, the ones who lived the most. And how would knowledge spread? Through stories, through practice, through generations. Without books, without the internet, the human mind would become the greatest library. And education wouldn't be about diplomas or degrees. It would be about learning to survive: farming, hunting, building shelter, understanding nature. Real knowledge would come directly from life. In a world without money, education wouldn't belong to classrooms or schools. It would belong to everyone. Knowledge wouldn't be something you buy, it would be something you give. Because in this world, what you know only matters if you share it. True teachers wouldn't be measured by their titles or degrees or certificates. They'd be measured by the lives they touched, the skills they passed down, the wisdom they left behind. And in the end, real wealth wouldn't be kept in a bank or written in a book. Real wealth would live inside people, passed from one heart to another, from one generation to the next, forever. Most crimes today involve money: theft, fraud, bribery, money laundering, bank robberies. They are almost always driven by one thing: wanting more money. What if there was no money? What would crime look like then? How would the world of crime operate? Because in a world without money, Stealing a wallet or robbing a bank would be meaningless. So why do people commit crime? In a world without money, crime would boil down to one thing: need. People would still steal, but not for gold or cash. They would steal food, water, or anything else they needed to survive. Not a car, a loaf of bread, not jewelry, clean drinking water. Thieves wouldn't target the richest. They would target those with the most resources. Stealing would become a desperate act of survival. But in small, close-knit communities, punishment didn't always come from law or force. It came from the community itself. Getting caught wasn't just about being labeled a criminal. It meant being an outcast, untrustworthy, alone. In many places, punishments weren't about imprisonment or violence. They were about isolation. Being banned from the community, losing access to shared resources, being left completely alone. But crime wasn't just about stealing. The worst crimes were those that harmed the entire community. Poisoning a water source, burning farmland, stealing livestock, withholding important information, sabotaging tools or food supplies. These were crimes that truly broke trust. Because in this world, harming the group meant risking everyone's survival. In a world without money, crime wouldn't be about stealing. It would be about threatening life itself. And punishment wouldn't just be about losing freedom. It meant losing your sense of belonging. Because the worst thing you could lose here wasn't wealth, it was trust. And the harshest punishment was being left completely alone. Because in this world, the most valuable thing you could ever have was other people. Today, when we think about happiness, it often looks like this: a new phone, a big house, an expensive vacation. And success: a higher salary, a promotion, a fancy title. But what if money never existed? Then what would happiness mean? How would we measure success? In this world, happiness wouldn't be something you buy. It would be something you feel. And success wouldn't be about applause from others. It would be about peace within yourself. There would be no designer clothes to show off, no luxury cars to impress anyone, no competition over material things. People would find happiness in time spent together, helping each other, feeling safe, creating and sharing with their community. Success wouldn't be about how many people know your name, but about how many lives you've touched. In this world, a successful person would be the one who feeds their neighbors, the one who brings people together, the one who shares knowledge, the one who's always ready to help. And maybe people would live with less stress, less pressure. Because there's no prize to chase, no race to win. The only thing to strive for would be becoming a better human being. In a world without money, happiness would live in the smallest moments. Cooking together, laughing with a friend, helping a stranger. And success? It wouldn't fit on a resume. It wouldn't be captured by a title. Success would be about how people remember you. Because in that world, what you own wouldn't matter at all. Who you are would mean everything. Thanks for watching.